Hey, Ross the Wars. This is Nathan here from the Stellenbosch Saints. I'm with Mike from the London Legion and Ross from the Latvia Unicorns. We obviously, all of us over the pond, so we decided to get together and start a little podcast videos called Across the Pond, just to discuss NFL and Ross the Wars in general, and it helps us with our sort of time zones. I don't know, Ross and Mike, if you just want to say a quick how's it to everyone.
Yeah, hi guys.
Hiya, I'm Ross, Latvia Unicorns. You all know me, hopefully.
And everyone's used to, hopefully used to Ross's accent by now. I think the melody of accents on this video should be quite interesting. But yeah, look, we've just been discussing before we started this clip, and we're going to go through more NFL related news and just sort of our opinions and our teams and our conferences, and really sort of just relate to the NFL. And then if we do feel like we've got a little bit of time later, we'll get into some roster war stuff. So look, yeah, I don't want to hold anything back, and I think everyone's excited, and we can hear Ross chat a little bit about the Jets and how their season went and what we can expect from them, and a bit of draft stuff if he wants to as well. But yeah, fire away, Ross.
Yeah, so everyone knows the Jets season was terrible. So this is my time to shine. This is when there's still some hope left for the 2020 season where we could possibly be good. So we've got so much cap space. The league starts in 10 days now. So we'll see how free agency goes. But with the combine going on at the moment, it's a real big focus as a Jets fan. 2 picks in the top 10. So there's some really, really good guys that keeping an eye on. Probably looking to go maybe an edge defender or a offensive line with the first one at least. So looking at the top guys like Ike Ekwonu and Kayvon Thibodeau, probably looking to be there at number 4 for us. But the main thing is we just need good players. Like, we've got so many holes. Like, you can pick whatever position you want, and as long as they're a good player, then they'll be better than what we've got at the moment. I think the only position on the roster you'll say is covered is QB, and that's not through good performances. It's just because we need to give them a bit more time. But you can legitimately draft any position and they'll become a starter straight away. So yeah, quite deep in that. I'd like to see us pick a skill position player just because it's more exciting. Like, no one wants to watch offensive line tape and say, yeah, I'm really excited about this guy blocking. So yeah, maybe a wide receiver there. I love Drake London. He's obviously not ran at the combine because he's injured, but hopefully run at his pro day. But everyone's been running super fast at the combine as well, especially some defensive linemen. Jordan Davis, what's 370 pounds, something like that, and he ran a 4.82. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah. I think there's something dodgy going on with the combine times though. Like, all the official times seem to be a bit way off. See, the unofficial times get changed massively, more than any other year I've seen. And they done I think it was Breece Hall, so he ran a 4.44 unofficial, and they done like a simulcam with Jonathan Taylor, who ran a 4.39, and he was clearly better than him. And then official times come out and they said Jonathan Taylor ran the exact same time as Breece Hall. So that's evidence that something dodgy is going on, definitely.
It seems like we need Rich Eisen to get his boots on and see how he goes. See if the times are still right.
Yeah, I've always fancied doing the combine myself, like seeing how good I would be compared to these guys. Because see someone run like a 4.8 and you're like, oh, that's so slow. But you see, if I can do it under 10 seconds, I'll be happy.
We should even propose that as maybe a roster wars off-season challenge. Everyone do their own like mini combines.
Well, I went to my first NFL game in London. They had basically the combine set up next to Wembley Stadium. But the queue was huge. I didn't try it, but yeah, it'd be nice to try and go in and sort of see how your vertical jump compared with these the guys who get paid a fortune to do it.
Yeah, get the cleats on, get the shorts on, and come and take it super seriously.
Yeah, I'll be there. My jeans after seven pints of lager. Try to do the dash. Not sure that would work very well, but
no,
it'd be interesting. It'd be good fun to watch. It'd be more fun to watch.
And Ross, sort of just getting back onto the Jets, sort of before we move on. Robert Saleh's first year, obviously Zach Wilson still very raw, but it's still quite a young team. Even your Michael Carters, even some of your receivers, Denzel Mims has suddenly become a thing of the past. But yeah, what positives can you take out of 2021 to actually build on for this year now?
Yeah, well, I think so. The young players are definitely one. So Elijah Moore and Michael Carter, like I thought they were really good. I know they missed time with injury, but you can see them being starters in this league. I think Elijah Moore could be a wide receiver 1 in this league, definitely if he plays 17 games. So I think the young players' development, and even in the defense, even though we were terrible, we're starting like 5th and 6th round rookies, and the defensive backs. A lot of them were still good, and obviously we need premium players in that position as well, but they could be good depth pieces. So I think the development of probably the defensive backs and the offensive skill positions was decent enough for me, but we still only won 4 games. So.
Yeah, no. And then quickly before we sort of move on from the Jets, the AFC East as an entirety, obviously it's been a pretty painful 20 years, and just when that sort of darkness was coming to an end, the end of the mean machine, the Patriots, the Bills have obviously resurrected themselves. Where do you see the Jets in terms of being competitive in the AFC East? And do you think it's something that can happen sooner rather than later, or yeah, just what are your thoughts on the conference in general?
Yeah, well, I think it can. Like in the NFL, everyone's so close. And talent level, it just takes something like a quarterback suddenly being better. So if I know it's a stretch, but Zach Wilson taking the same jump that Josh Allen did, if we get something like that, then suddenly we're a much better team, and it gives confidence around everyone. And we do have a lot of assets this season with the draft picks, but also cap space as well to get better really quickly if we need to. Well, we should be trying to do it every time anyway. But yeah, and I think the Dolphins are in a decent position. They've got new coaching staff, and again, they're maybe like a quarterback away from like properly challenging with the Bills. I think we're more than a quarterback away, and the Patriots are just the Patriots, so they're always going to be there or thereabouts. So it looks like a lost cause at the moment, like it's going to be another 20 years of domination by one team. But I think it's definitely within touch, definitely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, look, I think for us across the pond, I think the closest thing we can relate the sort of Patriots and especially the Bill Belichick effect is to your famous Scott Sir Alex Ferguson. I think the only way the Patriots will ever sort of potentially be written off or actually start a full rebuild is when Bill Belichick eventually decides to walk away from football, and then who knows where the Patriots might end up. But yeah, we'll cross those bridges when we get there. Mike, yeah, let's jump to the NFC North. The greatest team in the NFC North, the Chicago Bears. Tell us how was 2021 for you guys, and yeah, where do you see the Bears at the moment?
I think it started off with a lot of promise with the draft. Going up the draft to get Justin Fields kind of filled us with a lot of hope, but then the Bears being the Bears self-combusted again. Nagy, I think, kind of signed his own warrant card in the end with some of his play callings and whatever else. And I mean, Pace had some good trades in him. He pulled up again a Khalil Mack trade, and unfortunately, this wasn't enough. I mean, I think the truth of it is we need, coming. Obviously, we haven't got a first round draft this year, but we've got to take O-line. You got to keep the quarterback upright. So our O-line last year was not great. The defense was okay, even losing Mack. I mean, Robert Quinn, who he pulled in last year on free agency. I mean, the guy he's a Pro Bowler this year.
Yeah, awesome.
I never saw that setting a, I think it was a single season record for sacks for himself, I think, last year. So it shows that the bare bones are there. I think, like Russell, the Jets, you can see the formations there, but to do it right. And I've sort of chatted to other Bears fans. The bigger problem probably is for further upstairs as far as the actual ownership goes.
Yeah.
That's been a perennial problem with our guys. It's just the problem starts at the top and just keeps filtering down. Hopefully next year we can get some, better O-line players. Keep Justin Fields upright. Second year development going forward, like the Josh Allen thing, right? If you can make a leap even half as good as Josh Allen, you're moving quite a way up the food chain. We're in a interesting division with the Packers, who may or may not need a new quarterback, depending on which story you read and which day of the week it is. new head coach at the Vikings this year. So how they play forward, obviously Zimmer was very defensive minded. So whether or not the change is aggressive offense again. Obviously they've got one of the best wide receivers in Jefferson. And the Lions, obviously I know you talked to Tyler and Corby and these, but yeah, the theory is there that they are building the bones at the bottom to build themselves up. So there's nothing to say they won't come on and have domination at some point. Obviously the Bears fans feel the same. So I think we are, in a tough league. The Packers have got some talent there. It just depends on how they manage it going forward.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think, yeah. Looking at it, it does seem, and if I'm honest, if you look at the vast majority of conferences in the NFL at the moment, I feel like a lot of them have been almost shell-shocked or going through quite a big revolution. Whereas I think maybe your NFC Wests and your AFC Wests are pretty stable, but even myself, we'll talk about it in a bit with the Saints and the NFC South. The NFC South after Brady's retirement is an absolute dog show, and Sean Payton walking out, like we don't know where that's going to end up. But sort of going back to the NFC North, I think obviously with the Packers, it seems quite likely that they're going to do whatever they can to keep Devontae Adams and Rodgers. And just with those two players alone, you automatically an incredibly competitive side. The Vikings have just got one of the most underrated quarterbacks, the steady Eddie Kirk Cousins, who just ticks every box there is. And he finds a way of getting winning seasons, but not much more. He's not going to win you a Super Bowl, but he's going to get you in a position to be competitive. And then as for the Lions, it seems like with Dan Campbell, I think there's a bit more of an energy around the team. But I don't know. I think if you are the Bears, though, with Fields, you could argue if and when Rodgers leaves, because he's not going to be around there much longer, you do have the heir to the NFC North throne and the quarterback.
We did obviously top the NFC North not that long ago. We had got into the playoffs and we double doink here. I mean, that could have been a completely different season. What worries me a bit is you got the likes of Quinn, Khalil Mack, they're both early 30s now, and as their skill sets, they start finding it harder and harder. Von Miller's 33 this year, I think, or 34. Yeah. He showed he's still doing it, but at some point they do fall off the cliffs. We need to keep going. I do think we've got one of the best linebackers in the league in Roquan Smith. I think awesome. He's a piece to build around. I think for me, you watch him week in, week out, and he's side to side. A bit like Micah Parsons is at the Cowboys, right? Yeah, he's come in and just started dominating games. So I think it's really, really good. Which in a way it helps Quinn, it helps Mac, it helps the older guys be less covered. But we'll see. But yeah, I think the NFC is still quite well. Obviously the Packers, strong team. The Rams, we'll have to see how they go forward next year. But it'd be nice to try and put some pressure on these guys and playoffs next year, hopefully. And look at the Bengals. Bengals turned their life around so quickly, 2 seasons from last to first. So
no, exactly.
Everything's possible.
No, exactly. Look, I would say my NFL addiction is only in its infancy, in the sense that I've only really been intensely sort of following the NFL in the last 5 years, maybe just over 5 years. And in that time, there's been a clear shift from NFC to AFC, in my opinion. Look, the AFC always had Brady, right? That was just non-negotiable for the last 20 years. And there were a few teams that had their good years, Joe Flacco winning the Super Bowl and a few sort of anomalies. But at the same time, the NFC, you still had your Breezes and your Rodgerses and your sort of almost your Cowboys, your established teams. And I think the bubble in the AFC of incredibly talented young quarterbacks has exploded. Like, you just look at the second-year quarterbacks, your Herberts and your Burrows, and then you've got Josh Allen as well, who's recently there. You've got Lamar Jackson and all the young guys this year as well. Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields. Fields in the NFC, but in the AFC, there's a real talent of young quarterbacks.
That chap called Mahomes.
He's
not bad either.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not bad, that fella.
Exactly. But yeah, look, I think as you say, look, I'll just sort of briefly sort of speak about the Saints very quickly, and the Saints are in a very look. As I said, I've only really been intensively looking at the NFL the last 5 years, which has been a pretty good but traumatic experience as a Saints fan. I think it's great knowing that you've got an incredibly competitive side, but it's pretty painful losing it at such late stages in playoffs. This was obviously the first year in I think 4 or 5 seasons that we didn't make the playoffs. And now the transition post Breeze, post Sean Payton. Now, if I'm honest, I'm pretty pleased with the Dennis Allen appointment, although I think it's quite risk averse. I think it's just trying to keep everything the same. It's paying everyone the same. It's just kicking the bucket down the line. Just try to be competitive. It's not changing the fundamentals of the franchise, which I think maybe you do need every now and then to actually start a younger generation pushing for a title. Look at the Bengals. Like, I know that didn't sort of happen overnight, and it's quite an anomaly, and every team's trying and striving for that. But I think the reality is that the NFC South as a conference as well it's going to shift. You got Matt Ryan on his last legs, Panthers in turmoil, and you got Bucks now. Who knows what? I don't know what your guys' sort of outside perspectives are of the NFC South, Ross.
Well, it all comes down to quarterback. Like, everything in the NFL comes down to your quarterback. And like you said, the Panthers don't have one. The Falcons are on their way out of having a franchise guy, and the Bucks suddenly now don't have one either. So if the Saints can solve that problem before the other 3 teams, then you're set up a lot better. But I also thought the Saints were maybe the more well-rounded team in the division, even better than the Bucks, I thought, this season. But it was just that quarterback that was missing. So what do you think then, Nate? Do you think you can get the quarterback situation solved? What's your preferred way of doing it?
So it's very difficult. Look, I'm solely looking at our defense. Our defense is very capable, and obviously, look, we I won't even get to the contract situation, the salary cap, because we're 40 mil over the salary cap. But knowing Mickey Magic Loomis, he'll find a way of getting us under. It's just who we'll be able to recruit. I don't think we'll have the money to sign an elite free agent, or not really many elite free agent quarterbacks. It could be a case. I personally would love to have Jameis Winston back. I'd love us to re-sign him. I don't think we can afford him right now. It also depends what he's expecting, because again, he was showing such good potential, and then he went and it's a severe knee injury. It's not something that you just walk off. I know nowadays they recover a lot quicker, but it's still quite a severe injury. But there are other teams also looking at quarterback this year, which will make the market a bit more difficult. I think picking at 18 in the draft, I don't think we will go quarterback, although I wouldn't be upset if we did. If a Matt Corral or if a Kenny Pickett or someone like that fell as far as 18, which I highly doubt, but if they did, then I'd be open to entertaining that as a draft pick. But I still feel the other areas, whether that's addressing maybe Terran Armstead leaving, so it's sort of our offensive line, or it's helping the receiving core. Look, we don't know what Michael Thomas is going to be like after 2 years in the wilderness, so we need some more weapons, and who knows if Kamara is banned or not. So on offense, we need quite a lot of help, and I think there will be a quarterback, even a Mitch Trubisky or a Mariota, like someone like that, who might come for us for a 1-year make it deal, and with the team there, they could be competitive. But I don't know. We'll see. I think, Mike, you know more about Trubisky than I do. So what do you think he can take the Saints deep?
I think he showed moments of being quite good and moments of being very erratic, which also, not being funny, that also goes down for quite a few QBs in the last few years. They've patches of being very good. Mariota, same thing at Tennessee. He had patches of looking very, very established, and then just throws 6 interceptions back to back because that's what he does. Same thing with Winston. I think he's very, he's a very capable quarterback, but has got those in there. But in today's pass-happy NFL, these guys are taking more risks than they were before. So as much as all the older guys' stats are great, when it was all nice dink dunk, sensible passing, occasional long ball, your stats look quite good. I've looked at the draft, and the Falcons probably need one. I think I can see the Commanders are what they're picking at number. Where are they? Commanders at number 11. They want a QB.
Yeah.
The Broncos will sign Aaron Rodgers, so that's fine. The Panthers. I mean, do the Panthers take a QB this year? I don't know. With what's on offer in the QB stage, do you spend this year strengthening your tight end or your offensive lines, or picking up other skill sets to build for next year's draft? I don't know. I think Trubisky would be a interesting with the right coaching. I think he's a good player. I think Nagy showed in the first year with him, he got us to the playoffs. He's not a bad quarterback. He's not elite by any way, shape, or means, but he can win your games with the right coaching and the right call
team
plan
around him. Absolutely.
And I think the Saints got to look at this. Do you keep just trying to sneak into the playoffs and hoping you get one good year going forwards now, or do you hit reset, pass off Kamara? Kamara's a few years into his year now. Just move him on for some picks. Do you Michael Thomas, like you say, he's been out for 2 years. Do you do a Julio Jones, send him off somewhere for a couple of second rounders, or do you where do you start taking the draft capital?
No, absolutely. No, I agree, and that's why I think. But I think a lot of teams are in this sort of position, similar-ish to the Saints. I think you look at the Bucks and you look at sort of a few of the teams, even Pittsburgh with obviously Big Ben retiring. I think a lot of teams are going to need to sort of reprogram franchises that have had a lot of long-standing quarterbacks. Like you even look at the Chargers, they hit the jackpot by moving on from Rivers and hitting Justin Herbert. And I think a lot of teams are looking for that makeshift, but it's not as plain and simple as that. Look at the Commanders now. They've struggled for a while just to find a quarterback. Even the Panthers, since Newton sort of had his injuries, they've struggled. So it is quite difficult. But look, I think all of us, I think the roster wars in general, but every NFL fan is chomping at the bit to see what happens in the free agency coming up. But just to sort of move on to sort of our next sort of mini topic here, I think let's talk a little bit combine orientated. I know Ross loves the combine and he talks about it as a Jets fan. It's the highlight of his year. But Ross, looking at the last sort of 3 days and some of the results, who to you are some of your standout rookies that not necessarily Jets specific, they can be, but in general, who are your favorite combine prospects?
Yeah, well, first of all, I need to talk about David Ojabo. So he had a good combine. He ran a 4.55, but the reason I'm talking about him is he's Scottish. He's going to be a first-round pick in the NFL, and he's from Scotland. He was born in Nigeria.
Is he expected to be a first-round pick?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
So the range is, depending on where you look at, it's quite difficult to see where he's going to go because he is a raw prospect. He's a really good pass rusher, but that's about it. This is the only year he's really started, was last season. He got 11 sacks and like 5 forced fumbles, I think, something like that. But so he's quite raw, so the range is quite big. But you're maybe looking at the Giants. I think they pick at 7. They've got a couple of picks who could be interested in him. I fancy the Ravens. They're at 15. Could go to the Ravens at 15 because his old defensive coordinator at Michigan last season is now the Ravens defensive coordinator. So easy to see that, and that's where he made his biggest progress is under this coach. So I think he'll go in the first round. It could be a lot later than that, but I think he'll go in the first round. But so he's Scottish. He identifies himself as Scottish. He's been in Scotland since 7, and all his family live in Scotland and Aberdeen as well. So very exciting.
Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Is that the first Scot to make the NFL, do you think? Or was there one before?
Graham Gano, so the kicker for the Panthers for a long time, Giants. He was born in Arbroath. So I think he moved to US when he was young. So he probably sees himself more as an American. But David Ojabo on record as saying, I'm Scottish. I'll take that.
I think our Scottish test here is, well, what's his accent like? Can we understand him, or I haven't heard him in an interview yet?
Yeah, he's not got much of a Scottish accent. He's not as broad as me, but we'll take him. We'll take his whatever we can.
Oh, no, nice. And any others? Like obviously you mentioned earlier about how quick these D-line boys were. Some of the big fatties were incredibly quick. But are there any other standouts from the combine this weekend for you in particular?
Yeah, so the biggest one, obviously all these, not necessarily the fastest, but when you look at their height and weight, when you look at Jordan Davis, the
Unreal.
defensive lineman, what he ran a 4.82 at 370 pounds. It's unbelievable. Like, I think the narrative on him was he's like, before we really got into the draft coverage, was he's a top 10 pick. No problem.
Yeah.
He's brilliant, outstanding. And then recently he's been dropping down because people have been saying he's more of a run defender, and can he become like a 3-down lineman? But now, after the combine, I expect everyone's just going to be like, yeah, oh, of course, he's a top 10 pick. He's unbelievable. Yeah. He's an amazing athlete. And that's all you need. And as on defense, I think that's more important, as just being an incredible athlete. When you look at the combine for the wide receivers and the running backs, there's a lot of smoke. I don't think there's a lot to running incredibly fast. So you look at the top guys, so who ran like 4.2s, low 4.3s, you can probably really throw them out and say they're not going to be like an elite NFL player. But when you have the guys who combine the production and the speed, so Garrett Wilson ran a lot faster than people were expecting. Chris Olave is going to be a first-round pick as well. That sort of second tier of times in the combine, they usually turn out to be really good players. So those two Ohio State boys are probably the big takeaways for the combine for me, in terms of is going to have an impact on where they're chosen. So I think Garrett Wilson was probably the top wide receiver, and there were some questions about his speed. He plays fast on the field, like on game day, but it sort of just gave, now, right, there's no excuse. Now we know he's fast. Like, there's no knocks, not as many knocks on him now.
No, absolutely. No, good. Yeah, look, I agreed. And then Mike, your side, the last 3 days, any sort of just briefly, any sort of guys that sort of stood out to you that maybe Ross hasn't mentioned yet?
Yeah, well, one that popped out to me was James Cook, brother of Dalvin Cook.
Yeah,
just because apparently he's supposed to be as good, if not better, than his brother, from what I've been reading. So I'm thinking, with the way this draft's go, maybe some sort of second day guys. I mean, the QBs are always interesting. Obviously, it's been fairly well documented. This is not supposedly the greatest batch of QBs coming through into the draft. But yeah, a lot of conversation about hand sizes. That's been interesting this last few days. The smallest hands, which I've not got particularly bigger hands, so it's interesting. I don't know. The combine's good, and I think you got to remember, it's obviously the combine's great, but also what they've done, the tape, how they've played at college, what college they've played at as well. There's a few random guys come through from unis like Minshew. He was second tier, I think, or third tier of college level QBs. He's gone into a fairly decent career, even as QB2 at teams. The combine's quite fun to watch, but I don't know if I take as much stock into that as some people do. It is fun to watch the guys just cleats and try 40 times of bench pressing and vertical jumps, and it's good to watch. I mean, I think this the end of it, the coaches see more than just speed, and
it's very unique to American sports, and I think it's quite nice for us, like over here in the UK and Europe and who aren't American, to watch and see this is how the draft works, and these guys come out and they test themselves, and it's quite tangible. It's sort of, these are the stats. This is how quick this guy is. This is how strong this guy is. Whereas you don't see that in any other sport or in international sports. So it is nice to have those sort of tangibles. Like, this guy's the quickest wide receiver. It's not saying he's the best or he's the best catcher or the rest of that is there, but yeah, look, I think it's important to sort of gauge and not get over immersed in the numbers, because as you're saying, I think a lot of the franchises and teams do their homework. They look through hours and hours and hours of tape, and then they almost analyze all these guys. They take them and they interview them. They sort of pressure test them, and I think that there's a lot more that goes into the decisions. I think, just myself sort of looking the last sort of 3 days, I was expecting him to do well, but I think Malik Willis turned up and he ticked all the boxes. I think it's I think it's inevitable that he will be the QB1 of this class. That's just my opinion. And I think fantasy fans around the world, especially in all Superflex leagues, are just chomping at the bits to get their hands on Malik Willis. I think there's going to be a bit of hype around him, I think, in roster war specific drafts, but it'll be interesting. And one of, sorry, I'm just sort of jumping around a bit, but one of the articles that I did read earlier on the combine, and they actually said one of the biggest losers of the combine was Treylon Burks. They felt he didn't run as quickly as he should have. Sort of his vertical wasn't as good as it should have, and there were a few sort of question marks behind him. But I think going before the combine, he was up there as one of the top 2-3 wide receiver picks, and maybe he's someone that slides and falls. Who knows? And I think it's always interesting around draft time.
Yeah, specifically around Treylon Burks, I think he still ran a fast time. So I think it was 4.5. Maybe it was 4.55. That's still fast, but it's just in context of all these other players. But he's also a bit bigger as well. So if you're looking at like 185-pound receivers, he ran a bit slower than them, but he was still generally fast.
He's a 225-pounder. He's a big boy. Yeah.
I was looking at some of the times on the NFL website, and they're all fairly close. The top 10 guys. There's not huge spreads of this. So difference between, like I said, a slight 180-pound guy against.
Yeah,
it'd be a touch slower anyway. But route running it's not always about speed, right? So
no, exactly. I think it's the schemes as well, and the coaches are obviously looking for especially on the offensive side, but also defensive side as well. It's what sort of players fit the scheme and what the coaches look at, and I think that's where the coaches have quite a lot of say as well. But look, I think it's as we all know, it's an interesting time of year. I think it's good to sort of put the combine to bed and then sort of do our homework on those sort of rookies coming in. But I think the first thing is what we touched on slightly at the start of the pod, and we'll probably wrap up here very shortly. But it is the excitement of sort of the free agency period now over the next week or two. But yeah, just to sort of finish off this sort of chat and video that we've put together here, Ross, I'll just ask you specifically for the Jets, who would be your other than your favorite Scotsman, who would be your favorite rookie to take for the Jets this year, and who would be your preferred free agency signing for 2022 for the Jets?
Yeah, so I keep mentioning him, but I think Drake London. So maybe not with number 4 pick, maybe not with the first pick, but at some point, I think Drake London, I really want him on my team. I just think he's got everything that the Jets don't have. So more than, I don't think he's maybe the best receiver in the draft, but I think he'll fit us really well and give us something that we don't have. So he's probably my pick for the draft. And in terms of free agency, I'd like to see us get a tight end. So I don't know if Dalton Schultz will be a reach free agency or if he'll be signed or get tagged by the Cowboys, but probably him or your boy Marcus Williams would need 2 safeties. So I think if we can pick up one in free agency, that'd be good as well.
And Mike, for the Bears, just quickly, your sort of rookie that you would like, or anyone there?
Yeah. The problem is who drops that far down to number 32. That's my biggest problem.
Yes, sorry, I forget you don't have a first round pick.
Yeah, no first round. I mean, there's some amazing offensive line guys out there, but I can see a lot of the sort of first round picks being used on either defensive or offensive line players this year, looking at who's in the draft. I think offensively we're okay, but it's the offensive line we need to look at. And if we can get someone, I don't know who will drop that far down. That's the problem.
And then on free agency, just like if
there's some good players coming up again. I think we got to look at linemen again. It just depends on what lineman we can get to fit our system. I think that's where the focus needs to be for this year. As much as some, I think we're letting Robinson walk this year. I don't really looking to re-tag Robinson after his, but then Mooney's obviously come through. I don't know. There's some names out there, but I don't know. It's difficult for me to say, really. I don't know. There's so many holes we need to fill.
Yeah, no.
But then I don't know. The offensive line guys. I think there's guys I've never heard of that are probably coming through that they're going to look at. And I wouldn't want to say that
it's a glorified, as you say, it's a position that that sort of us spectators sort of pay the least amount of time to. And there's such great, talented guys there that rock up on the years, just like you mentioned, Robert Quinn and all these guys sort of on the defensive side that out of nowhere just put in unbelievable seasons. But yeah, just sort of my side now with the Saints at 18, I would love it if we could get Chris Olave, if he's still there at 18, just as another weapon. And hopefully Michael Thomas comes back fit. And let's hope we re-sign Jameis. We produce a miracle there. And then on the free agency side, look, I don't know. I'm sort of in a similar boat to you, Mike. There's so much that still needs to be done before free agency for the Saints for us to actually have a decision. But if we do lose Marcus Williams, for example, I'd like us to hopefully look at signing maybe a safety or someone in the secondary, and if we lose Terran Armstead, just to sort of work on that offensive line. But yeah, look, guys, I just want to say thanks for sort of giving up a bit of time on your Sunday. I think we've done well. We've covered quite more NFL specific info, but I think that's good for Roster Wars. Hopefully, we make this a bit more frequent. A couple more coming up now. We can discuss the free agency coming up in a week's time, and then more of the rookie draft coming up, and the Roster Wars related RFA stuff. And no, it's a good time to sort of get busy and dig our teeth into these sort of pods and chats and videos. I hope you guys all enjoyed sort of coming on, and hope we'll make it a bit more frequent. That's a little across the pond. But yeah, I hope everyone has a good rest of their Sunday, and everyone across the pond on the other side in America, you enjoy your Sundays, and on to a new week tomorrow. But yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for signing. Thanks Ross. Thanks Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks guys. It's been good. Cheers. Bye.